Hello everyone, I'm Guillermo from Fortivo Music Channel, and I'm genuinely excited to welcome you to this very first episode of our new video podcast series. These are relatively short interviews with prominent people from all walks of life who don't work in the music industry, but who are in many ways impacted by music. Our first guest is not only a good friend of mine for the past 15 years, but also an amazingly successful person on many different levels. He's most widely known for being a Fortune 500 CEO, who then transitioned into a career in the space industry as an investor, a thought leader, a philanthropist, and most recently, an entrepreneur. He's also an explorer, having flown into space on a suborbital flight, and also dived in a sub to one of the deepest parts of the world's oceans in Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench. Despite knowing each other for 15 years, this was our first opportunity to talk about his musical interests. As he is in all his other endeavors, he was incredibly thoughtful and inspiring. I hope you'll agree and enjoy my conversation with Dylan Taylor. Dylan Taylor, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure, Guillermo. Great to see you, as
Yeah.
always.
Likewise. So as you know, this is a show where we're going to talk about stuff that you and I normally don't talk about. We usually talk about space stuff and ocean stuff. And today we're going to talk something a little bit more personal, a little bit of music. Now, first things first, do you have any musical training or talents that we may not know about?
Unfortunately not. Guillermo, I joke, I've been cursed with high musical appreciation and zero musical ability, like truly. Can't dance, a little bit tone deaf, but huge, huge music fan. It's a big part of my life. I do a lot of outdoors activity, a lot of athletic events and training and things like that, and I'm always cranking the music. So I'm very inspired by music and very touched by it, but unfortunately not particularly talented at it.
Nice. Well, that's the cool thing about music is that you don't have to be good at it to actually appreciate it and have it influence your life. So that's nice. So any particular genres of music that you tend to listen to more?
It's interesting. So I like music, of course, but I also fixate on the lyrics. So I've always really been into sort of the story behind the songs and kind of the poetry of it. Because to me, music should be evocative, right? It should create emotion within you and remind you of something, or allow you to remember someone, or some event. So a lot of mine has to do with heavy, lyrically focused songs. Lately, that's been a lot of rap, ironically, and there are a couple of hip hop artists that I think are geniuses that I like to listen to. But previously would be things like Americana, like a John Prine, if you know who he is,
Yes.
kind of a beloved, Americana artist who passed away sadly due to COVID. But then also folk, I would say. Uh, was a big Leonard Cohen fan growing up. My dad was. He kind of got me into it. So yeah, I would say things that are tell a story, that are lyrical, that are poetic. I'm attracted to that. And then the flip side is anything that's just super high energy, especially like Fall Out Boy, or these kinds of adrenaline type artists. Because when you're training or competing, you want high energy music, obviously.
Yeah, it's interesting that focusing on lyrics takes you from folk all the way to rap,
Yeah,
right? Very cool.
yeah.
And in some of your adventures that you've taken, because I know you've gone on in space and in subs, did you get to listen to music during those adventures, or how did they?
On the
Yeah.
ship, yes, but not underwater, because you need, of course, have your wits about you and monitor the systems. Although, ironically, when we did Challenger Deep, Victor and I did watch a movie on the way back up. It's like a tradition he has.
Interesting.
He allows you to pick the movie. I had picked Lord of the Rings Return, or no, I'm sorry, Fellowship of the Ring, so the first Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, you didn't get to watch the trilogy?
No, and actually, we only got through, a quarter of the first movie, because it's quite long, and we had some other things we were focused on in the
That's
sub. But
That's
yeah,
funny. How long was the ascent?
it was 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So movies, but no music. Okay.
right.
But on
Exactly.
the ship, you were good. Do you like going to live music? Do you go to shows?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I was just in New Orleans this week, and I don't know if you've heard of Restoration Hall.
Yes.
Amazing. Mark Browd was leading the band that night. They had three trombone players, one in from Barcelona, as a matter of fact, who crushed it. And I was fortunate. I was able to be on that front bench. You know, it only seats maybe 50 people. So sitting right in front of the band. So yeah, love live music. I live in Metro Denver, so I do a lot of Red Rocks Amphitheater, which is kind of a legendary venue. But yeah, love live music for sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's cool that you got to be at Restoration Hall. That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, well, I know that I asked you to do a little bit of a homework assignment, and maybe we can get into that. Generally speaking, I asked you if you were going on a long-term space mission and you could
Yeah.
only take 10 songs with you, what 10
Okay.
would you take? And it was interesting the eclectic mix that you came up with. Maybe you can maybe walk us through the songs and maybe a little bit about them or why you picked the songs that you did.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, great assignment. It was very thought provoking. And so I was thinking, on this journey, you want to celebrate life, but you also want to be, I think, introspective as well about the whole cycle of life. And so if you look at sort of the bookends of the songs that I picked, it really talks about kind of an intro and an outro, if you will. Because I was thinking of this almost like a concept album, if you will. But then also, I wanted to pick songs that were meaningful to me emotionally, but also reminded me of different periods of my life. Because if you're on a journey like that, you kind of want to take your crew with you, so to speak, and the people you care about. So that's how I was thinking about it. So, first song I selected was Gregory Alan Isakov, who's a really up and coming, I would say, folk artist. Not super famous yet, but super talented. And he wrote a song called That Moon Song, which I think is one of the more beautiful songs about the moon and very touching. So I think that would be a great song to take along. I had that selected. Leonard Cohen, had to have a Leonard Cohen song on there. As I mentioned, he was and remains one of my favorite artists of all time. And his best song, I think, was Famous Blue Raincoat, which has been remade several times. And kind of tells a story of his life and living in New York and being in the art scene, and just a beautifully poetic song. Again, kind of gets at that lyrical, uh, you know, storytelling that I like so much. Then I thought I'd have to put a little energy into it, right? You don't want to be sad the whole range. So I actually picked something that I uh, loved from high school, all the way back to high school, which is Iron Maiden, Hallowed Be Thy Name, which I think is one of the more high energy songs they ever made. Not a
Yeah, that
huge,
was interesting going from Leonard Cohen to Iron Maiden. But yeah, I could see how you made the jump.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm thinking pick up the energy, and it's still one of my favorite workout songs because it kind of has a slow lead up and then just gets into a super high energy riff. And it's a long song. I think it's about 9 minute runtime. And then I had to have some John Prine on there. He wrote Angel from Montgomery, which is probably one of the more famous songs ever written, actually, and by a U.S. artist. Been remade a gazillion times. I picked the rendition with him doing the duet with Bonnie Raitt. This was right after John Prine moved to Nashville from Chicago and became more of a kind of a crossover country artist, and performed that with Bonnie Raitt. I think they were at the Grand Ole Opry when they did that, and just completely crushed that rendition. So I had that one.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs, and I love that duet that they did.
Yeah,
It's
I think
amazing.
Bonnie, who's very talented, of course, that might be her best lyrical performance on recorded, on recording. She just absolutely crushed that.
Yeah, I agree.
Tori Amos, also, reminds me of college. I had a very serious college girlfriend. She and I were kind of really into Tori at the same time. She wrote a song called Jackie's Strength, which sort of reminds me of that period of time. And so I selected that. And then back to high energy, Fallout Boy, which is just about as high energy as you can get. I always think of like Troops Before Battle, listening to Fallout Boy. It's like that kind of music a bit. But I selected Centuries. And again, I was kind of imagining being on a long space flight and, you're contemplating the long arc of history, if you will. So I selected that. Then I had to have some Lupe Fiasco. He's my favorite rap artist. For those of you who don't know Lupe, he's a true genius. If you ask other rappers who they admire and who they think the best, most talented rappers are, about 8 out of 10 of them would say Lupe. He's just super, super well respected. He's won Grammys. Pretty lots of longevity. He's, probably 14, 15 albums into his career. His latest album, which just got cut this summer, I think is his best. So he's only getting better. And there's a song on this new album called Seattle, which I think is just absolutely extraordinary song. Lupe, I'm very fortunate to call him a friend.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I saw somewhere that he played at your birthday party or something.
He did. Yeah, he played at my birthday party, and he's just such an exceptional human being. Super smart, super thoughtful. I mean, I'll just give you an example, Guillermo. He's currently a visiting professor at MIT.
No, he's not. Really?
Yes, he is.
Oh
He's
my God.
artist in residence, visiting professor at MIT at their invitation.
Wow.
So
Very cool.
this is like a next level talent, and he's doing. So what is he doing there? Well, he's studying sort of the art of linguistics and how linguistics and beats come together for communication. And I mean, he's next level, and
Wow. Very
he's a
cool.
great human. Really proud to call him a friend and love spending time with him. And then another Americana artist you might remember, Jason Isbell, who he went solo and has had a couple of hits, but the one I really like is Last of My Kind, which is sort of, imagining someone from the backwoods of Arkansas going to the big city and kind of what they experience when they do that. But I really like that song. Jason, I think, is a great lyricist. The Killers, I'm a Killers fan. The song I really like that I selected is called All the Things That I've Done. And the thing I like about that song is it's kind of a mashup of a lot of different styles, a little punk, a little, what I would call, hard rock or pseudo hard rock together with, almost like an alternative kind of techno beat. So just like a mashup of a lot of different things. So I really like that song. And then the last song, again, kind of for the outro, I think one of the best songs ever written, actually, lyrically, is The Woods by the White Buffalo. And, I would just encourage people to sit in a dark room and listen to that song. It's just amazingly powerful. And I think it's an amazing metaphor for life and kind of the existence that we all, share. So to me, that's the perfect outro for call it a one-way trip, right? If you're taking a deep space mission, Guillermo, the thought is you're probably not coming back, right?
Yeah.
But,
no, that's very cool. It's interesting the approach that you took for selecting the songs, because after I gave you the assignment, I actually tried doing it for myself too. If I was going, what would I do? And I took a similar approach. It was more trying to figure out different parts of my life or different parts of music that I wanted to bring with me, almost on behalf of humanity.
yeah.
And when you do it that way, you end up with an eclectic mix.
Mhm.
It's not like, your workout set, your workout playlist that's all high energy, like one long song. So it's very interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was a great assignment, and I really appreciate that. It was very thought provoking and brought back a lot of memories as I was thinking through the playlist for sure.
Yeah. So it's the other thing that's interesting is limiting it to 10. Then after you finish the 10, then you start thinking of all the songs that you left out
Right.
that you're like, oh, wow, that would have been a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was interesting for me too, because I know about 7 of those
Hmm.
10. So now I've got three new ones to go check out. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your opening my eyes to some of these, which is really the kind of the point of this podcast anyway. So appreciate that.
Let me know
Um,
let me know what you think when you listen to them. I'd love your feedback on it. Tell me what
yeah,
you think.
yeah. What I'll do is we'll probably create the playlist, and then I'll probably just listen to the playlist as you created it,
Oh, I love it.
which is one of the interesting things that I guess maybe people of our generation or music fans of our generation kind of miss from the album era, when albums were actually put together as concepts, right? Start to
Right.
finish, kind of the way you put together the playlist.
Yeah. That and also, the I know a playlist is a mixtape, but kind of curating, music and doing a mixtape, there was a huge art to that as well, I think, certainly growing up. And of course you didn't have access to all the music. So your curation, now you can just go to Spotify and see how many listens everything has, right? But back then you had to sort of curate it a little bit more. I miss that. I really do.
Yeah, so do I, and that's in large part why I'm doing all of this. So it's
Yeah.
nice. What So I know you were really excited about Lupe Fiasco. Is there an artist that you like that's up and coming that you don't think very many people know about, that you think people should know about? Or maybe it's Lupe, I don't know.
No, I think, well, Lupe is underrated for sure, but I think most people know at least who he is. I think Gregory Alan Isakov, who I mentioned earlier, I think is up and coming. There's a guy also who grew up in my hometown, small town in Idaho, named Josh Ritter, um, who I think he's had some tough times recently, but he is enormously talented. I don't know if I'd call him an up and comer because he does have 7 or 8 albums, but he's also worth listening to. On the rap side, yeah, I think I like a lot of rap, but I don't know too many emerging artists on the rap side. So it's a great question. I wish, to your point, I wish I had more ideas on new music to listen to. So thanks for doing this podcast. I'll be a regular subscriber to the new playlists that get posted.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Actually, one of the guests that I want to have on is fairly prominent in the Atlanta rap scene.
Oh, cool.
She's actually helping to break out new artists, since Atlanta is one of the hip hop capitals of the world.
For sure.
So hopefully she'll be on probably in January, and maybe we'll get some more ideas from her on
Yeah,
that.
love it.
Maybe for you in particular, because of your particular interests, I kind of want to ask you a semi-philosophical question, because I know you've spent a big part of your life, and I spent a big part of my life helping to make humanity a multi-planet species. When you look at it in that way, with humanity going off planet, what role do you see music playing in that effort, if any?
Well, I think it's central. So, I mean, I think to me, again, back to my vantage point on music, where it's the lyrical power of music. I think it carries our stories with us, Guillermo. It's cultural, of course. It's almost like putting mood in a bottle, if you will.
Ooh, I
Uh,
like that. Mood in a bottle. Yeah.
Mood in a bottle. And I think so. I think, humanity is so much more than technology. It's so much more than ambition. It's so much more than what's over the hill. And by the way, all three of those things appeal to me deeply, but it's way more than that, right? It's about relationships. It's about tragedy. It's about love. It's about hate. It's about the whole range of human experience, right? And music and art in general captures that, right? That's the beauty of art. So I think, imagine life without music, right? Maybe I'll just turn the question around. I think that's a pretty sterile life, right? Not a
Yeah,
lot of
I agree.
emotional range and things like that. So I think it's absolutely essential.
Well, perfect. So that seems like the perfect way to end this conversation. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. I really appreciate it, and I learned a lot. So thank you, Dylan, for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks, Guillermo.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dylan Taylor. As usual, we will include all of his details in the description below, as well as links to the songs that he selected for his spaceflight playlist. Until next time, I'm Guillermo from Fortivo Music Channel, wishing you happy listening.